Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, y'all are having a wonderful day today. So, I thought that I would talk about this colossal fight that is going to be happening this weekend on Top Rank ESPN Plus. I believe the colossal fight is going to be between the two best 140 pounders in the world today, between Josh Taylor and Jose Ramirez. Now, there would be some people that would dispute that these are the two best 140 pounders in the world, or at least that Jose Ramirez is, because you would have a certain amount of people that would argue that Regis Prograis is actually better than Jose Ramirez. But as of right now, I have to count Jose Ramirez better than Regis Prograis because he has the two world titles, and Regis Prograis has never won more than one world title in that weight class. So it is what it is. But we'll see within time if that fight happens. I'm not sure. But anyways, when it comes down to it, as of right now, you would have to say that these are the two best 140 pounders in the world, as they're the ones that hold the titles in that weight division. And what that means is that whoever the winner of this fight is going to be the complete unified world champion of the world, meaning that they're going to have all of the four major titles: the IBF, the WBA, the WBO, and the WBC titles, which is going to make this a very big, colossal fight in the making. And I'm here to give you my little breakdown. Now, I actually reviewed, or I already put out a prediction a little bit ago, about a little bit over a month ago. But to be honest with you, that might have been a mistake. That might have been a little bit too far out to kind of give a fight prediction on this. But I'm here to give a final breakdown for any of you that might be curious on my take about this fight. So, who do I think is going to win this fight and why? Well, this is a very interesting fight when it comes down to it, and I'm a little bit torn between my gut intuition and my logical brain. At least that's what I would call it. I'm a little bit torn in between those two to overall who I'm picking in this fight. On the surface, when I take a look at it and my logical brain, what my logical brain is telling me is that, I should pick Josh Taylor in order to win this fight because Josh Taylor, he has looked like the more dominant fighter of the two. They have fought similar opponents like a Victor Postol in the past, and Josh Taylor has looked more impressive against top tier competition than a Jose Ramirez. But also, my logical brain is telling me is that styles make fights when it comes down to it, and you never know what is going to happen in these fights. And what my gut is telling me, my intuition is telling me, is that Jose Ramirez, he's got very decent power when it comes down to it. He can hurt you, and on top of that, Jose Ramirez, if this is a tough fight when it comes down to it, if this is a 7 rounds to 5 fight, I believe that Jose Ramirez is going to get the decision no matter who actually deserves to get the nod. And that's really kind of what I'm looking at here. If Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor, if this is a tough fight, if this is a 7 rounds to 5 fight, Jose Ramirez is more than likely going to get the decision. And it's not necessarily because I think maybe he would 100% deserve to win by decision, but Jose Ramirez, Top Rank seems to have a decent amount of stock in Jose Ramirez. It seems like they have plans for him, and there's been a couple of decisions in his career where it seems like he has gotten fortunate to get those decisions. One against Jose Zepeda and one against Victor Postol. Now, the Jose Zepeda one, I'm kind of not sure on that one because I kind of forget what exactly happened in that fight. I remember it being a very tough fight, but I don't remember what exactly I scored it, so I'm not really going to comment on that one as much. But the Victor Postol one certainly was one to where Jose Ramirez had a very tough fight. Now, I don't have a problem with him necessarily getting that decision, but one could certainly argue that Victor Postol could also possibly got that decision as well. My point being is this: if this is a 7 rounds to 5 fight, if this is a very tough fight with a lot of swing rounds, and it could debatably be 7 rounds to 5, Josh Taylor is not going to win this fight. This is in Las Vegas. This is in the USA. They are not going to be on his side if this is a very tough and close fight. All right? So it is what it is. If Josh Taylor wants to win this fight, if he wins this fight by decision, which is what mainly I would predict, but let me also say this: I would not rule it out of the realms of possibility if one of these guys were to win by knockout. And I'm seeing a good majority of people to where they say if they believe a knockout occurs, they will believe that Jose Ramirez gets the knockout. Let me tell you this: if Josh Taylor was somehow able to get the knockout within the middle to late, rounds, would I be surprised? No. If a knockout happens here, I believe it would happen about round 9, somewhere around there. And I would not be surprised if one of them were able to get the knockout. Because Josh Taylor, he has a decent amount of power as well. He's a decent athlete when it comes down to it. I've seen him hurt a multitude of opponents. I've seen him hurt Victor Postol. I've seen him hurt a couple of other decent opponents that he fought. He knocked out Ryan Martin, who I've never really been overtly impressed with, but, is a tough guy when it comes down to it. I'm trying to think who else. I seen him push back Regis Prograis quite a bit, a couple of times in their fight, so he was able to hurt Regis Prograis a little bit. So Josh Taylor, don't underestimate his power and his athleticism, because Josh Taylor can hurt Jose Ramirez maybe the same way that Jose can hurt Josh, or at least someone along those lines. Now, once again, who do I believe is going to win this fight? I'm going to go with my logical side on this one. I'm going to go with Josh Taylor. I think that Josh Taylor is a better all-around fighter. I think when I take a look at their skill sets, I believe that Josh Taylor just overall can do more things in his style. I think that he's more of a complete fighter. I think that he can fight in a multitude of ways. When I take a look at Jose Ramirez, I don't want to call him completely one-dimensional, but he seems to fight in only mainly one style. He seems to be a get-up-and-go fighter. He seems to be mainly a pressure fighter. A pressure fighter that has some holes in his defense a little bit that is hittable. So he does need to be careful in this fight. What do I think that these fighters need to do in order to win the fight? I think for Josh Taylor, I think it depends on how Jose Ramirez comes out into the fight. If he seems to be a little bit patient, I don't think that there's any problem with pressuring him and trying to push him back. But if I had to guess, I believe that Jose Ramirez is probably going to come out like a bull in a china shop. If I had to guess, I think he's going to try to go out there very early and be aggressive, if I had to guess, kind of like he was against Maurice Hooker. I think he knows that Josh Taylor is a very decent mover when it comes down to it, and, might be trying to go on the back foot. I think that he's going to try to make this as much of a firefight as he can, and I think overall that Jose Ramirez is going to try to get at Josh Taylor very early. So Josh Taylor is going to have to be very, very careful. If Jose Ramirez comes out there like a bull in the china shop, I think what he needs to do, I think he needs to move around him, always move at different angles when it comes down to it, always be on your toes when it comes down to it, do kind of what Erislandy Lara was able to do against a Canelo Alvarez. Do something similar to that. Now, some people, of course, when I mention that, they say Lara was doing nothing but running and all this other stuff. I don't really count it as that, but it is what it is. Anyways, Josh Taylor, when it comes down to it, he might have to be on the back foot and may try to outpeck Jose Ramirez, or he may have to try and out-counter and out-punch Jose Ramirez from a distance, at least for a certain amount of time. I don't think that he's going to have to do that for the whole entire fight. Jose Ramirez, in certain half of fights, he may lose a little bit of energy when it comes down to it, and overall he may give you the opportunity to back him up or hit him with some wide open shots. So we'll see what happens. I think Josh Taylor, for the first part of the fight, I think what he wants to do is that he wants to out-jab Jose Ramirez. He is very hittable with the jab when it comes down to it. Get that left hook in there, because Jose Ramirez is a little bit vulnerable to that. But also watch out for Jose Ramirez's left hook, because Jose Ramirez has a very good left hook and a very powerful left hook that he'll hit you not only to the head with, he'll also hit you to the body. So he'll have to move consistently, keep his hands up, have an A-grade defense in this fight when it comes down to it. I think that he needs to move around, double, triple jab, go to the body a little bit with the jab, go to the head, mix it up a little bit, get that left hand in there, get a left cross in there, move off, get a left hook in there. If he gets close enough to you in a corner, don't stay on the ropes for very long, because that's where Jose Ramirez likes to keep his opponents at times when he's trying to suffocate them. He likes to put them up against the ropes and basically try to out-barrage them, and he can get a certain amount of points, and that is going to give him points on the judges' scorecards. So what Josh Taylor is going to have to do is that he is going to have to get off the ropes. He's going to have to move around constantly, at least in the first part of the fight. And overall, he is going to have to make sure that he gets his punches in there. And sometimes, if Jose Ramirez does get close to you, don't be afraid to fight back. I'm not saying that you want to be in a 100% firefight with Jose Ramirez. I'm not saying that you want to go always toe-to-toe with Jose Ramirez, because if you had to ask me, I think Jose Ramirez is the more powerful of the two, and that he could potentially hurt Josh Taylor a little bit more than Josh could hurt him, maybe. But when it comes down to the overall bottom line is this, I do think that it is important to demand respect of Jose Ramirez. And if Jose Ramirez is on the inside, rip uppercuts to the body, rip a double uppercut to the body, and maybe a left hook to the head. He seems to be vulnerable to that, and then move off. That's what Josh Taylor needs to do in this fight, I believe. He needs to command respect. He needs to confuse Jose Ramirez. He needs to mix up certain punches and not get involved in a firefight with Jose Ramirez. Because if he tries to fight in the middle of the ring with Jose Ramirez the whole entire time, the way that he kind of did with Regis Prograis, at least not the whole entire time with Regis Prograis, but a lot of the times in that fight against Regis Prograis where he fought in the middle of the ring. I'm not saying that that cannot work with Jose Ramirez, maybe in the latter half of the fight, but I'm not sure if you want to do that when Jose Ramirez is at his best version of himself where he has 100% energy. You have to be very careful because Jose Ramirez is decently powerful. He's a decent counterpuncher at times, especially with that left hook. You have to be very, very careful. So I think Josh Taylor, when it comes down to it, at least in the first part of the fight, I think what he wants to do is move around. So that would be my advice to Josh Taylor. And in the second part of the fight, Jose Ramirez sometimes, at times, will lose a little bit of energy when it comes down to it, or will not be as aggressive. Maybe push him back a little bit then. Maybe put him on the back foot a little bit then. Or do whatever works, depending on, what seems to be working. But we'll see what happens there. As for Jose Ramirez, what do I think that he's going to have to do? I think that he's going to have to try and really trade with Josh Taylor. I think that he's going to have to try and make this as much of a firefight as possible. Try to trap Josh Taylor up against the ropes. Try to cut off the ring. Stick a double or triple jab in there. Kind of like I said for Josh Taylor. Mix it up. Get that left hook to the body. Get that left hook to the head when it comes down to it. He is a southpaw, and sometimes southpaws can be vulnerable to a left hook. So we'll see overall what happens with that. Jose Ramirez does have a very good left hook when it comes down to it. Maybe rip a couple uppercuts to the body if you have him trapped up against the ropes. Try to involve him in a firefight. If he goes on the inside with you, sometimes Josh Taylor, even though I think he's a very good fighter on the inside, sometimes he might stay on the inside a little bit too long and may not watch for opponents moving off on certain angles, trying to get other punches in on him. So kind of do what Mikey Garcia does. Move to the side, move at a different angle, pivot, shift, whatever you have to do, and try to catch him with a punch that might catch him off guard. That would be my advice to a Jose Ramirez. So we'll see what happens in this fight. I'm very excited for this fight. If you had to ask me to pick a winner at this current time, I'm going to pick Josh Taylor. But he needs to be very careful in this fight. Because Josh Taylor, I think that he might have the potential to beat Jose Ramirez 8-4. And that's what he's going to have to do in order to win this fight. He's going to have to win this fight clearly and dominantly in order to win this fight. Because if this is a 7-5 fight, he is not going to get the decision on the scorecards. I can promise you that. Even if it is a clear 7-5 for Josh Taylor, he is not going to get the judges' scorecards. That is the bottom line. They have a lot of stock invested in Jose Ramirez, and they are not going to let him lose a very rough and tough fight. So it is what it is. If Josh Taylor wants to win this fight in the US of A, he's going to have to win this fight dominantly. He's going to have to win this fight 8-4. He's going to have to embarrass Jose Ramirez in certain rounds. He's going to have to look pretty decently dominant in this fight. And that's the bottom line. So we'll see what happens. I'm going to go with Josh Taylor, but my gut is actually telling me that Jose Ramirez will somehow pull off this fight, whether it be by actually beating Josh Taylor or whether it be just by a crooked judge's decision. And some people may not like what I'm kind of injecting into there, because some people may think that I'm saying that Jose Ramirez earns decisions that he may not deserve. I'm not going to say that so far there's a fight in his career to where there's 100% of the time where I thought that he did not deserve that fight. I think the Victor Postal fight, I scored that 6-6. So the fact that, Jose Ramirez got it, I don't have a problem with that. Now, the Jose Zepeda fight, I would have to rewatch that one again because I can't really remember that one clearly. But we'll see what happens. Once again, Top Rank seems to have a lot of chips on Jose Ramirez. He seems to be the A-side in this fight, even though Josh Taylor is viewed as the better champion at 140 pounds. Jose Ramirez is the A-side in this fight. And in a close fight, they always usually give it to the A-side. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, that's my prediction. I'm going to go with Josh Taylor, but it is a very it is a very precarious situation for Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor needs to put on the fight of his life. He needs to put on even a better fight in this fight than he did against Regis Prograis or any fight that he did in his career, because the odds are going to be stacked against him on the judges' scorecards. That's just my opinion, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, that's really about it for today. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.